Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of the Auto Experience series. And today we are in one fine automobile, a 1988 Dodge Daytona Shelby Z. That's a lot of name. It's a lot of vehicle. I do apologize first and foremost for the audio quality today. It's not wind noise, it's rattle noise. So this is a Chrysler product for the 80s. Kind of joking, but not really. A lot of rattles in here, but I assure you most of them are superficial in nature, hopefully. Cool, back to the Dodge Daytona Shelby Z then. Dodge Daytona, in this iteration, I know a lot of you will think back to the giant winged Daytona NASCAR crushing muscle car from back in the day, but this is a whole different animal. So this car originally came out in 84 was the first model year of the Dodge Daytona. It ran all the way to 1993 model year, which is almost a 10-year span. So it remained relatively unchanged, a few facelifts along the way, a lot of different engine options. Started off with a humble 2.2 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that put out low 90s. So not a lot to write home about there. Upgraded models and later iterations included a turbo 2.2 that put out around 140 plus horsepower. That's a beefy jump, isn't it? So that was pretty cool. Pop-up headlights, facelift. Let's talk about when the good stuff came out. 1987 is when the Daytona got a facelift, where it got rid of that Camaro-esque front end and went to pop-ups. Those would hang around until 1992 model year. Pretty sure on that one, where it went back to having fixed headlights. So this is an 88. The 87 and 88's top of the line model was called the Shelby Z. So what did you get with the Shelby Z if you opted to go all out? Well, you got 174, 175 horsepower, 200 pound-feet of torque. The Turbo 2 engine was refined by adding an intercooler, and we all know how much turbos love intercoolers. So modest bump in power for sure there. You get thicker sway bars with the Shelby Z, 4-wheel disc brakes, a couple other touches. Pretty stout little machine. You have to understand that this thing was Chrysler Dodge's attempt to tango with the Ford Mustang, the Fox body at the time, and the Camaro. So pretty cool to enter a 4-cylinder turbo against V8s. But hey, performance numbers weren't that far off, if not identical. So this specific example I'm driving today is a one-owner California its entire life car with just over 84,000 miles on the odometer. So a lot fresher than a lot of the older cars I'm usually putting around in for sure. But still, no spring chicken. It's got a little driving experience under its belt. Condition-wise, this is overly exceptional. Always garage kept, always well taken care of, well sorted. Optioned beautifully, 5-speed manual, full leather interior, T-tops. Yes, please. It's all of the above. Let's talk market value real quick on these cars. It's tough. There's not a lot of them out there, to be honest. So it's kind of hard to place it in the market, as so few, especially in this condition, go up for sale. I've seen these things cheap. Maybe not the Shelby Z. You got to remember there's other versions. There's the Turbo Zs, the earlier generations. And yeah, they're all over the map. You can get a rotted out one for like 2K, 3K. You can get a decent one for 5 to 6 that's going to need a little work, maybe higher mileage. And then premium, you're really looking at the 8 to 9K range for a well-sorted, one owner example, much like this one. So a little rarer there, but that's about the price range. It's kind of, like I said, it's really hard to judge how much you should pay for a Dodge Daytona. As I almost stall, nothing embarrassing about that. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it goes, guys. So just be aware of that if you are shopping for these. It's a weird thing to be shopping for, but kudos to you. I like you. I like your style. I think you're very selective. But anyway, if you're shopping for these, it's a tough look out there, guys. It's really hard to source one of these, especially a clean one taken care of. The interiors didn't last too long on most of them. It didn't age well. The exterior also didn't hold up too well. So really finding them in this kind of condition is, I'd say, definitely unicorn-ish. So yeah, what you're looking for obviously is a good maintenance record, good condition. And the later models tend to have more reliability, but still, either one is cool. Any model year. I mean, like I said, it didn't change a lot over its nearly decade existence. That's a quick blurb about the 1988 Dodge Daytona Shelby Z. So let's get on to the objective tests. All right, we've got the Dodge Daytona Shelby Z up on the scales. Let's go ahead and get that curb weight and front and rear balance. At over 2,900 pounds, the Daytona Shelby Z came in a little heavier than I thought it would. Maybe that extra adjustability on the driver's power seat added some pounds to what the manufacturer claimed. With nearly 63% of the weight over the front half of the car, somehow Dodge was able to make the Daytona handle well. The manner in which the Shelby Z navigates through technical sections of mountain road is shockingly good. Something that looks like this from that era shouldn't handle like it does. There is no dead space in the steering, and slight inputs translate to direction changes. Those are good qualities to have. Turn-in is pretty direct and not nearly as slow as other vehicles from this period. The Daytona Shelby Z corners fairly flatly as well. The tweaks to the Shelby Z package, fatter sway bars, suspension, better brakes, make this a truly respectable canyon carver. Dodge's decision to go with a front-wheel drive platform, competing with the contemporary rear-wheel drive sports cars of that time, was a risky decision, but one they made work, and work it does. On episode 5 of my buddy Frank and I's podcast, another Pointless Automotive podcast, we listed cool automotive trends we miss, and this Daytona Shelby Z hits nearly all of them. Just look at this rad machine. We've got pop-up headlights. Not overly massive, just the right size for popping. T-tops. Wind through your mullet when you want it, and when installed, much cleaner looking than some floppy convertible top. Body cladding. Extra plastic and angles everywhere. A rear spoiler. Massive and covering the entire rear portions of the vehicle. Smoked out rear taillights. This was hot during the 80s. A hood bulge. Barely large enough to contain all the power held beneath. The Daytona Shelby Z is a showstopper anytime it goes out. The museum quality of this specific Daytona's interior is downright stunning. 80s Chrysler leather isn't known for its lasting power. It was here for a good time, guys, not a long time. Then there's this one owner, Shelby Z, who clearly conditioned this leather and took care of it over the life of the car. I'm not being sarcastic for once, guys. This leather is gorgeous. The color is rich, and the material is still soft to the touch. This has to be one of the nicest interiors on any Daytona still in existence. Gauges are clear and get the John Davis approval for including battery level and oil pressure. The boost gauge is especially cool, as is the display next to it for any open doors on the vehicle. The original stereo still looks brand new as well. The later years of the Daytona got an updated interior, and I stand by the old one being the best. I love the layout of the controls and the general overall feel of the cockpit. Again, I just can't get over the condition of this completely stock, looking like it just rolled out of the dealership condition. It's just a wonderful place to spend time. If you're going to bring a knife to a gunfight, you might want to strap a turbo on that knife. Isn't that how the saying goes? American sports cars come standard issue with V8 power plants. But Dodge, the current world premier muscle car manufacturer, opted for a turbocharged 4-cylinder. In this 1988 Dodge Daytona, it's the Turbo 2 engine, a 2.2-liter turbo making 174 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. Performance numbers closely mirror those of its V8 contemporaries. The engine makes power down low and holds on to it throughout the rev range, which ends at around 6,000 RPM. The turbo is loud and makes zero effort to hide its spooling. This makes it a very interesting car to drive as you take the Shelby Z throughout the rev range. Seriously, big props to Dodge for making a turbocharged 4-cylinder able to compete with V8s. Just showing up with 3 pedals and 5 gears puts the Daytona on my good side right from the get-go. But when the Daytona Shelby Z is rushed through the gears, the gearbox doesn't get bent out of shape. Sure, the throws are comically long, but precise, with little slop in the shifter action. This thing came with a solid gearbox. The clutch release point is rather high in the pedal's travel, so that takes a little bit to get used to, but the clutch pedal, shifter feel, and the gearbox all work together beautifully in this vehicle. Is the Daytona Shelby Z a hot hatch, pony car, or both? For a hot hatch consideration, it has a hatchback. It has a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, great handling, and it's front-wheel drive. For stereotypical pony car classification, it has T-tops, a pony car size, and styling cues clearly mirroring the pony car competition of the time. Maybe the Daytona Shelby Z doesn't have an identification crisis. Maybe it's a hybrid of the two, transcending sectors, if you will. That's exactly it. It's a hot hatch pony car, able to fulfill both roles for its driver/owner. It's got all the handling and ergonomic features that a hot hatch needs to have, while simultaneously outputting pony car power numbers and portraying attractive pony car styling cues. At the end of the day, I walk away from this experience truly impressed with the overall greatness, both performance-wise and stylistically, that the Daytona Shelby Z brings. This is just a largely unrecognized, fantastic car.